started. I want to welcome you to the Christian Chamber of Commerce First District Cannabis Forum. I'm James Arthur, the Executive Director of the Chamber, and it's great to have everybody here today. I'm going to turn this over to John Fortmeyer, who's our team leader for this meeting, and we'll open in prayer if you don't mind joining us. Father God, we thank you that you are awesome, that you are a holy God, and that you have placed us here for such a time as this. And Lord, we thank you for these people. We ask that you would bless them. We ask that you would give them clarity of mind and wisdom. We ask that you would release your fullness and to bring life to this city and this region and to this nation. And we give you all the glory and all the honor in your name. Amen. Well, this is John Fortmeyer. Let's welcome John Fortmeyer.
Thank you. It's amazing how much darker it is in the morning this time of the year. It suddenly gets dark, so we are expecting some other folks to arrive here. But we appreciate all the candidates making the effort to get here on time. Some have come from not too far, and some have come from a fairly good-sized distance because the first congressional district is fairly sizable. I am John Fortmeyer. I'm publisher of Christian News Northwest newspaper, and also a team leader along with Vita Ice of this monthly meeting for the Christian Chamber of Commerce. The Christian Chamber has 8 meetings throughout the region. The furthest north is in Vancouver. Furthest south is in Eugene, Springfield. We also have Salem and Albany and several in the Portland area. And if you'd like to find out more about the Christian Chamber of Commerce, you can check the website, which is, are there 2 addresses for the website?
Yeah, ChristianChamberNorthwest.com or just cccnw.net or .com.
Right. Okay. Well, we've allotted 2 hours here roughly for this event, and we have a list of 6 questions. If we have any time left over, we'll leave it open for any questions from the audience here. Vita Ice is going to serve as timekeeper. Wave your hand there, Vita. Okay. And she will, for the candidates, provide a little hint there on how much time you have left. So what we would like to do, we have the candidates seated here in alphabetical order. And so what we're going to do is, with each of these questions, just to rotate things a little bit, we'll start off the questions each time with a different candidate. But I think to start things here, we will allow each candidate 30 seconds to just give a short introduction about, I trust the microphones are all on here, so each of you have 30 seconds, and we'll start with Saba.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Saba Ahmed, and I'm running for 1st Congressional District. My background is in electrical engineering, physics, and I'm just finishing up my law and MBA degrees at Lewis and Clark Law School and University of Portland. Been at Intel, I was at Intel for about 7 years in various different engineering and management positions. For the past 6 months, I've been lobbying in Washington, D.C. against the wars, and I'm very excited to talk to you guys more about that. So, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Delinda Rose Delgado Morgan. I'm running under DR, which are my first 2 initials, Delgado Morgan. I am married. I've been married 25 years. I have 3 sons. My oldest is married, has 3 daughters, and my other 2 are in college. I have worked for 40 years. I started when I was 14 years old, and I worked my way up to construction, which is my love. I have been a member of the International Union of Operating Engineers for 29 years. I'm a heavy equipment operator by trade. I have run several projects. I've been in Oregon since 1992, 19 years. I have recycled for 19 years. I do not have trash pickup. I'm a farmer also, a small business owner. I have a vineyard and several farm animals, and we also farm hay and other things locally. I'm right here in Yamhill County. I live on the Newburgh-Gaston Highway.
Hello, my name is Pavel Gorberman. I'm originally from former USSR, came here 30 years ago for political reason. I have background, my parents died during World War II. I was an orphanage and military, then vacation school, worked as machinist, mechanic, then university, then very successful management. After university, did some profit. Thank you for your organization for organizing this debate, but I expected about 100 people at least come here. Okay, what to do?
Every
Okay,
vote counts.
but anyway, it's better someone here, but than nobody. Okay, now I'm running for U.S. representative. I'm temporarily retired. Now I have fitness business. I'm author of book and publisher, self-publisher. Also, I'm producer for video. My fitness program has a fitness program. I have no medical problem. I'm so eager to help nation. I'm healthy, not only healthy, I'm smart too, because I'm run for office because I have planned to create million jobs. I have planned to balance budget, not in 2-3 years, in couple months, 6-7 months, balance budget. I have planned to improve heavy traffic. Also, I'm so disappointed the policy of this. Okay, I will not talk too much, but visit my website, getenergized.com.
I'm Jim Greenfield, and I'm running for Congress in the special election. I ran for this office in 2002. I was the Republican nominee against David Wu. This time I think a Republican could win. My background is I've been studying politics and public policy and economics most of my life. I was a government major at Cornell, and I went to Penn Law School. I practiced law. I started some small businesses. I've been investing in real estate. I've hosted several talk radio shows on Portland area stations. And I'm running for Congress because I think we all know our nation is in a very severe crisis. To tell you the truth, I kind of like living in Tigard, but I feel like something has to be done. And we need people in Congress who are not going to compromise with the people who have been creating the problems. And we all know, either experiencing ourselves or we know people who have lost their jobs, their homes, their businesses. This is not an ordinary recession. This could be long-term economic decline for the United States unless we get people in Congress who understand the problem and understand we need free market solutions to it.
Good morning, I'm Robert Letton. I like what he said. I used to work in Washington, D.C. Actually, I was the press secretary for Congresswoman Pat Schroeder. Tail end of Jimmy Carter and the first term for Ronald Reagan. It's a very interesting place, and it's hard for those individuals not to compromise what he was saying. I am a registered investment advisor. I have my own business, money management firm. It is important that we get back to free markets. I do believe we need to get out of the Middle East. I have no idea why we're there. And I keep trying to come up with a reason. And I talked to Saba about it, and she's not sure either. So my time is up. Thank you.
I'm Lisa Michaels, and I've been doing a television show on cable access in the Beaverton area. You may be able to get it out here, I'm not sure, on Channel 11 or Channel 21 for the last 6 years. Was initially a relationship show. I took on the female's perspective and the man, and had a different man take on the man's perspective. We talked about relationships without using the 3-letter word with the X in it, and I'm not talking about tax. So it was a lot of fun. And then I've also been doing a show called Accountability, where I go out and I find issues that upset me that I think need to be reported on and are not being reported on because the mainstream media doesn't think it's in their best interest to do so. Like the Schumacher Furs debacle, when they ran a business out of business because they didn't want to support the people that were protesting. In any case, I felt the Lord wanted me to run in this race. I've run several times, and that's all I have to say. Thanks for your time.
My name is Dan Streit, and I'm born and raised in Oregon. For the last 35 years, have lived in the 1st District on the North Oregon coast between Seaside and Astoria. And I'm here as a candidate. And I'm here because I feel this huge urging inside of me to see if we can't change the way things are. I have a short, condensed platform. It's a platform of the people, I believe, not just Democrats, not just Republicans, Green Party, Blue Party, Independents, and even those that aren't registered. First thing is to get out of the war business, and second is governed by compromise or consensus. And I'm looking forward to today, and it's nice to be here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now going to launch into our questions here, and for each of the questions, you will have 2 minutes to respond. Vida is going to be energetic in waving her sheet there, how many seconds you have, so she'll work to catch your eye there. Then, after you give your 2-minute response, we will go through and you will have an opportunity for a 30-second follow-up. And because, as I said, we seated everyone alphabetically here, and because Dan Streit down there at the end has been very patient and understanding about being at that end of the alphabet, we will start this question with Dan first as the respondent. And this question is, unemployment is persistently high, not only here in Oregon, but across the nation. What is the proper role of the federal government in terms of either directly or indirectly seeing that Americans have more jobs again?
Thank you, John. You ask a very complex question which requires a complex answer, okay? But for instance, look at the shoes that you're wearing, John. They're made by Nike. Nike made those shoes in China for $10. You bought them for $100. So there's a $90 disparity there, okay? I don't think Nike pays a $90 tariff to get those shoes here. Nike's an Oregon company. They have 10,000 employees out of the country. Would 10,000 employees in Oregon help our situation? My take is that if we're going to continue to send business out of the country, which is happening daily, things are bad now, they're going to get a whole lot worse if we don't change how we operate our trade issues. And the same thing is true. You pick up your telephone and you call your insurance company, you're going to talk to Malaysia, the Philippines. I mean, this is just an inkling of whatever. You go to Clatsop County and you see a pile of logs. There's a Hampton mill in Washington that just gave notice to 80 employees that they weren't going to have a job. And they aren't going to have a job because they can't get logs. And yet we're shipping logs to China. Now, is that what should happen? I don't think so. We have to reform how we do business, not just in this country, but around the planet. Thank you.
Lisa Michaels, I believe in the Constitution of the United States, and the Constitution of the United States is for limited government. The government is supposed to assist and help their people, the people of the United States, to pursue, life, liberty, and the just, pursuit of happiness. You can't pursue happiness when you've got the government bearing down on you with all these onerous taxation measures, with all these regulations. You can't be pursuing happiness if you're running a business and you have no idea what the government's going to hit you with next, whether or not you can afford to hire another person because you don't know what the government's going to tax you with. what the government's going to stick you with. You don't know if you can get people to work and hire people. I understand this latest jobs debacle from the Obama administration has in it something to the nature of, and I have to look at this more closely, but I understand there's something like that you can be a special class and you could do a lawsuit against somebody who's trying to, if you interview for a job and you happen to be unemployed at the time you're interviewing for a job, which is an odd experience. Can't imagine that somebody would actually be unemployed when they're trying to seek employment, that you could actually sue them for not hiring you because they were being prejudiced against you because you were unemployed. This kind of insanity, this kind of ludicrous style of totalitarian government has got to stop, and it's very important that we send a rock-solid conservative that has been out there fighting for the issues and fighting for individual liberty like I've been doing for the last 11 years, and I'm the only one on this panel that has done that and on a public fashion. Thank you.
Thank you. You gotta love this. I really like these people. The role of government with all of this, it doesn't have a role, actually. Business cannot sit around and wait for government to create jobs. As a business person and all of these, government only kind of gets in the way. So government, the way it can assist us, really? You can't hear me? I'm recording. Oh, you're recording. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I can hear you.
Thank you. So government needs to basically get out of the way. Got to cut taxes for business. We've got to deregulate. We've got to get all the stuff that's harboring business from actually employing people. So that's all. They just need to be a good neighbor and let business do what business does. And we, as consumers, will determine what businesses we like and what businesses we don't, and it'll work out. It'll be great. And I know there's like $12 trillion sitting overseas somewhere that supposedly businesses parked away because they don't want to bring it here and get taxed. So, as a government, I would go to the business people and say, "What do you need from us to bring that money back?" That's all. And if that's cutting taxes or whatever it is, whatever they say, just do it, so they'll bring that money back. Thank you.
Yeah, Lisa's right that she's the only one up here that's been fighting for limited government for 11 years. I've been fighting for limited government for 25 years. And I have a document to prove it, a copyrighted statement that I wrote in 1990 calling for a balanced budget, following the limits of the Constitution, abolishing the income tax. What should the federal government do to create jobs? The government has already done much too much. Do you know that today we have 19 million Americans employed by government, federal, state, and local? You know how many are employed in manufacturing? 11 million. You go back 20 years, it was 21 million. So that tells you what's wrong here. The problem is the government is doing too much. The front runner in this race in the Republican Party is Rob Cornelius, who isn't here today. And Rob, he's a nice guy. I actually like him personally, but I don't agree with his policies because Rob says in his website that if we pass a balanced budget amendment, we're going to need to, quote, severely raise taxes. Now, this is exactly the kind of thinking that's gotten us into the mess we're in today. Raising taxes just means giving more money to the government. And the problem is that the government has expanded so far. You know, there's only finite resources in society. If the public sector gets bigger, the private sector has to shrink because the resources are going to the government. Today, the government is consuming 25% of GDP, the highest level in history. So the answer is start shrinking the government, cutting the spending, cutting the taxes, and the private sector will grow. You get rid of the corporate income tax, all those trillions of dollars that are overseas are going to come back, and you'll see full employment coming in a matter of a few years.
Okay, question was about creation job. Yeah, everybody knows. In 2008, in primary, I ran for U.S. Senate, and some did mock election. I don't pay media. I advertise what I could do for state and nation in water pamphlet. Media promote who pay media, who pay candidate Cornelius and others and pay media, they promote them. I ran for office for create job. I have plan. Question was about job. I promised to create a few million job. How? We have nation spent about 1 billion a day to buy foreign oil. It's common sense. Drill for oil. Be independent from foreign country, or somebody it will cripple this country. If they use our money against us, it's common sense. I talked to one guy, he has in Utah gas drilling. Stop it, this government, stop this business. We have developed a vehicle powered by electricity. About government, I think government also responsibility to create job, but not Columbia River crossing. They going to spend 4 billion taxpayers' money. First, don't need it. I promised to improve traffic without spending money. Where money came from? From borrow money from China or Russia? No. Have to. Then I have other plan to create a few million jobs. I talked to one owner who has about 100 employees. He said, I like my idea. I will disclose this idea when I will be elected. Also, to create more jobs, we have to cut salary huge. Some government employees have 500,000, state government employees, $150,000. Cut their salary, create 2-3 jobs.
Time. I believe government is too big. We need less government. Government is supposed to govern, secure our borders, and protect our rights. Government needs to roll back its services and give them back to the private sector. The private sector will compete and they will bring service costs down and employee benefits up. I worked for a construction company and we went through hard times in the late 70s, and the profits that the corporation I worked for were used to pay the employees between jobs so that they didn't have to go on unemployment. Our employer kept paying us for maintenance and to do work in the yard until the next job came up so that they could pay us. We have spent probably $137 million approximately for the I-5 crossing. That was just research and development that went to a very few people. Nothing has been done. They are thinking about putting a temporary crossing instead of the I-5 crossing. We already have one, the 205. Government wastes money. If that money was put back into our communities, we would have jobs, many jobs, to give to our local people. If we could spend that money instead of letting the government spend it. Thank you.
Hey, I believe I agree with most of my opponents. I believe we do need to reduce regulations. We have created so many laws that you don't know what's going to hit your business with. I'm just finishing up my MBA, and I'm working in our community, watching businesses and running different businesses. I've noticed how much, especially for being a Muslim American, we don't know what we're going to be hit with next. You could be targeted, you could be religiously profiled, you could be a potential terrorist, and you don't know. Under the Patriot Act, you're under constant surveillance. You don't know what you say may be used against you 10 years down the road. And it's just, we've crippled ourselves so badly that we have forgotten our basic values as humans. I think we need to bring that back to business, because you need to value diversity and different perspectives if you want to succeed in the world. You cannot alienate yourself, you cannot demonize others and expect to succeed. We have to have a win-win mentality. You cannot just think that you're going to win and somebody's going to lose. We can all succeed in business, in life. And just I believe to create jobs, we have to come together and we have to invest in our human potential. 1 in 3 Oregon students isn't even graduating from high school. How do we expect these students to compete nationally or globally? China, India, other developing countries who are moving forward are investing heavily in their human capital. They're investing in their children, they're investing in their future generations. We are failing to do that. If you have an uneducated workforce, no matter what you do, they're not going to be able to work or compete globally. So thank you.
Now, each of you will have 30 seconds if you wish to take advantage of it to follow up with any additional comments or respond to anything that one of the other candidates has said. So we'll start down here with Dan again.
Well, I might add just one thing, and that is that we have over 40,000 lobbyists, and they greatly affect what goes on in Washington, D.C. with their checkbooks. And right here in the very first district in Oregon, for a candidate for the House of Representatives, that will determine the election unless people like you want to make a difference. Thank you.
I also understand that since this year began in 2011, President Obama has put into effect over 2,000 regulations through executive order, which have nothing but a stifling effect. As we all know, business owners, this is a Chamber of Commerce meeting. I mean, how are we allowed to do this? I talked to, when I was walking door to door, to a guy who said that he has 3 jobs. He owns a seed company, but he can't do it because of the fact that he can't get money out of the banks. I mean, there's so many issues. Thank you.
I'm good. Go ahead.
Yeah, you remember it was about 3 years ago that we had the Troubled Asset Relief Program, the TARP bailout, where the government gave $867 billion of our money to a bunch of banks that were going out of business. How many in this room think that was a good idea? Okay, we've got one. They told us that if we didn't do it, we would have a severe recession, and the stock market would collapse. So they did it, and the stock market collapsed, and we have a severe recession that we're still in. I think we should be skeptical of government solutions.
2008, I ran for U.S. Senate in Fox University in Forest Group. They didn't invite me for forum. They invite Mekwe and Novik. It's so bad. University, religion university, violate our law, United States Code, Title 47, Section 315, equal time. For me, it's more important, not only economy, national security is more important than economy. We have to defend our country, have to take, okay.
I do believe we're over-regulated. The EPA, they're able to make regulation over all of our lives, and yet we didn't elect them. They are appointed, and if we cut down on the regulation, it will give us more of our money and time so that we can work at paying for services and getting private services. Thank you.
I agree. We need to reduce regulations from the EPA. We need to revive the agriculture industry in Oregon. We have so many natural resources here, and we have so much land available. We should be like the wheat capital of the world or something. We really need to use our agriculture commodities and develop them in full scale and use our resources to create jobs here.
Thank you. Next question, and we will start with Lisa. If there is one thing that both parties can hopefully agree on, it is that our federal government cannot continue on its current path of spending beyond its means. But the ongoing sharp differences between the parties center on to what degree spending should be trimmed and to what degree, if at all, taxes should be increased. What is your preferred method for balancing the federal budget?
Okay. You seen the movie The Untouchables? You know, he actually said, "I want them dead," but I don't want to say that. I just say I want them gone. Okay? Get Lisa Michaels in Congress, and I want the Department of Education gone. I want the Department of Energy gone. I want the the Environmental Protection Agency so far gone. That is what has destroyed our city. That's right. Can I hear a gone from you guys? Gone. All right. And that's cathartic, isn't it? Yeah, we want them gone. I want all those gone. This is ridiculous. Our government has grown like a leviathan, out of control, and if we don't get rid of them and we don't send rock solid conservatives to Washington, D.C. like they did in New York City, you look at Bob Turner's his agenda in New York City, that's Lisa Michaels right there in a nutshell. Thank you.
There are 14 departments in the government. You can go from the Department of Interior to Education. Out of those departments, there are 28,000 bureaus, agencies, commissions. So the other day I was sitting around thinking, well, I'm in the investment business. So I know there are 7,500, to draw a correlation there, 7,500 to 8,500 stocks on the New York Stock Exchange. Wall Street has created 26,000 mutual funds. So it's got to tell you one of two things. One, either they haven't figured out how to invest money, or two, they're making a lot of money off the mutual funds. Government has created 28,000 of these agencies, bureaus, and commissions. If we just, and I can't argue with, because everybody's got their own, we should cut this, cut that, well, don't. Just bring the federal government into the 21st century. If we get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, that will more than balance the budget. I look at the Bureau of the Interior, Department of the Interior. They have the Bureau of Indian Affairs. That's over 250 years old. I have no idea why it still exists in the 21st century. We managed properties for the American Indian, and they just sued the federal government and won for $4.5 billion for mismanagement. I would just let them manage their own property, just like I want to manage mine. So those little things like that throughout the entire 14 agencies would work and balance the budget.
Yeah, not to keep harping on Rob Cornelis, who isn't here to defend himself, but since he is the front runner, it is important to make distinctions in our approach. Rob gave a long speech at Dorchester in which he said that it's important to get Republicans who are willing to accommodate and compromise with Democrats. And my view of that is, but to use an analogy, suppose you're in a car that's being driven by someone who's driving towards the edge of a cliff at 100 miles per hour. And you're arguing, you say, stop, don't drive off the cliff. And there's a guy in the back seat who's saying, would you guys stop bickering? And you say, why don't you just compromise, drive off the cliff at 50 miles per hour? That's what it means to compromise with people whose idea of how to solve our problems is to raise taxes and keep spending more money and borrowing more money. We cannot, we're not going to solve this problem if we it's compromise that's gotten us into this mess. We need people who are going to take strong principled stands. And as to what to cut, we're not going to solve the problem by raising taxes, because the problem is a spending problem. So what to cut? Well, it's very simple. Look at the Constitution, see what powers the federal government has, and then start cutting everything that's not in here, which is about 2/3 of what the federal government spends money on.
Amen.
And we could also make substantial cuts in defense, which is a legitimate government function. But the way that the war against Islamic extremism is being fought is stupid. Why are we sending hundreds of thousands of troops to invade foreign countries and occupy them? That doesn't defeat the terrorists, that creates more terrorists. What we need to do is infiltrate the terrorist organizations go after them with special forces like the Navy SEALs who got bin Laden and destroy them.
Maybe 10 years ago I worked in some office, city of Beaverton. Over there I see table, I see people some working. Now walking in office, wall, big wall. I don't see who they take a nap there. You see, do nothing. So not only city, county employee, federal employees, so lazy, overpaid. It's so huge government. Government must regulate, conduct this country, but they don't. Therefore, my point is no increase taxes, no. Have to cut government employee, many government, cut about maybe 30%. It's federal, state, city employee have to cut. Then have to reduce subsidy of some many industry, agriculture, another some oil industry, pharmaceutical industry have to cut their subsidy. It's not socialist system. Also have to, my point is, I have a plan to create job. For example, I stopped my airflow. Okay. First we have to balance budget. To balance budget, it priority must, it violation constitution, it huge debt, it amendment 14 section 4, section 4 say balance budget, it no any if or some if balance it must be priority. Therefore, also temporary stop immigration because but political only, because nation spends so much money on welfare, on food stamp and other some medical illegal immigrants.
I do believe that we are taxed too much, not just enough. We are taxed more than we should be. The federal government is taking too much on, and a lot of the services that it's doing, it needs to be pared down or eliminated. I believe that for the Department of Interior and the properties that are owned in this country should be owned by the states. I believe 73% of Oregon's property is owned by the federal government right now, and it should be given all back to the state of Oregon. In this way, we can tap our own resources. We can decide if we are going to build a pipeline for resources, and we can do it safely, and we can do it with our own people, creating jobs and making money for the state of Oregon. All the federal buildings can be rented from the state. If the federal building, for instance, in Portland can be rented from the state of Oregon, that's another income. It's up to the states what they're going to do with their property. Taxes are not a way to make money. They are only a way to take the money from the people. Every person should have as much of their own money as possible because they will know how to spend it in their communities. I have done community service for several years. I worked on a campaign for cancer research, and we raised over $100,000 for cancer research. There's also another fundraiser I'm involved with, several actually, but the Dewey Sullivan Classic, which is a golf tournament and a dinner auction, and so far we've raised $65,000 for college scholarships for the underprivileged. Thank you.
Oh, I believe in order to balance the budget, we need to cut spending. First of all, I think if we cut all funding for the wars in Afghanistan and Pakistan, that will be a right. It'll save billions right away, and it will bring all of our troops home. I agree with Jim about fighting Islamic fundamentalists. It's an ideological war. You can't fight it with bombs or military. We need to work with the Islamic scholars to dispel the Islamic myths. The life is supposed to be sacred. In terms of balancing the budget, I believe we need to use our natural resources. And again, Since 73% of our land is owned by the federal government, we need to bring that back. We need to have it used for making money, use that land for good purposes. I also wanted to touch on how I think the Federal Reserve and the IRS were both created in the 1913 or 1916, around that time. And the interest that we're paying is being compounded regularly. Americans can't even, any money that our government spends is borrowed from the Federal Reserve. So it's not just borrowed, it keeps on compounding every year. That's why the 14 trillion debt is going to continue to increase. If you want to balance the budget, we have to cut that borrowing pattern. The Federal Reserve should be like the State Bank of the United States or something, where we don't have to borrow to print our own money. Like no other country in the world does that besides the United States. So that's why we're in so much of the deficit. I don't see China doing it. I don't see India. I don't see any of the other major nations who are going to be developing in the next 30, 50 years doing that. We need to change that. And it only started in the last 100 years or so. That was never the case. In our Constitution, always talked about having the government, there was gold-backed currency. So that's something we should look into. Thank you.
Starting with Lisa, any 30-second follow-up that you're allowed here right now? Pardon?
No,
Oh, I'm sorry. Dan.
yeah, dance to it. Poor Dan.
Oh,
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
That's all right, I've been left out before.
sympathy vote.
I want to be perfectly clear. This has been a 10-year campaign to get out of the war business. And in front of you as a veteran from the Korean War, United States Marine Corps, I'm not against the military. But all you nice people took time to come here today. I want you all to ask yourself a question. What's it going to look like a year from now? Do you think that budget is going to change? Number one, it won't change till you decide to do what it takes to make it balance. So you've got to get out of the war business. How are you going to do that? What do you see yourself doing to make that happen? That's the question you should be asking yourself. All the social programs, all the efforts to balance the budget aren't going to happen. You've got a Congress that is not moral. They have no scruples. And I would put the same fix on the president. He's increasing our war efforts, not decreasing them. If we don't, and I'm speaking to everybody, if we don't do what it takes to make this happen, your grandchildren won't have a country. You don't have to worry about it. That's what's going to happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dan. My apologies for that oversight there. Lisa, 30-second follow-up.
Okay, I think the only person on here tragically was my cousin was murdered by the terrorists, by Islamic extremists on 911. He was blown out of his office and the second plane hit while he was reassuring his wife that he was okay. Plane had hit the other building. So this idea that we can solve all our problems by moving out of the Middle East financially and turning every issue to that is disturbing to me. We're still in Germany. How long ago did we finish that war? We need to protect ourselves from them.
I want to clarify, I think my position was slightly mischaracterized. I didn't say that the war against Islamic extremism is purely ideological. There is certainly a strong ideological component. But there's also a military component. There are people out there who want to kill us. So you can't fight that strictly on a philosophical level. My point is that we need to do it intelligently by going after the extremists who are trying to kill us rather than by trying to rebuild nations at the cost of trillions of dollars. That isn't helping. World War II only lasted 4 years. We've been over there for 10 years. It's not working.
Nations spent much money on what? On healthcare, also on prisons. Therefore, besides what I said, have to drill for oil, have to, on healthcare, nation must concentrate on prevention medical problem. I'm 74, I have no medical problem. I don't spend money on doctors and medicine. Also, prisoners must work, pay back to society, but not for entertainment. Prison must be.
We need less government. I worked as a bookkeeper for a bank from 74 to 77. We balanced our checkbooks by hand. The $800 billion stimulus did not work, but I would like to see an itemized list of where the money was spent, wouldn't you?
Being the only Muslim candidate in this race, I have to say I think if I was given the opportunity to serve the 1st Congressional District, I can stop all the terrorism. I need to talk to them through the Quran, and my God teaches peace. And life is supposed to be sacred. And if I got a chance to speak for America, I will tell the terrorists through the Quran, and they will listen to it. They won't listen to any other person, but all Muslims believe in the Quran. So if you fight terrorism and ideological wars through the Quran, we can stop it, and we don't have to live in fear anymore.
Talk to them now.
I am trying.
Dan, a follow-up?
I don't want to miss this opportunity either, thank you. So this may be an extreme take on this issue. We now know that government is corrupt and they can't balance the budget, okay? If you get new people in Congress, maybe, if they have some morals and you take away all the incentives to make all that extra money, maybe it'll work. So how does this look to you, to give you an idea? Let's say I'm here, you're here, and we're going to come to some kind of an agreement which everybody is happy with. All right, I'm here, you're here, and I'll move, but you won't. My suggestion, if you're in Florida or Michigan or Washington or Oregon, you need to be recalled. So again, the people have to step forward.
All right, the next question, and we'll start with Rob.